Hey everyone, so I've got another video here on the fate line, and what we're going to be looking at in this one is what it means to have two fate lines, a double fate line. Now these can look very different. You can have a double fate line that runs parallel for the whole hand pretty much. You can have it coming in just for a tiny bit and then dipping out again. You can have the second fate line coming from within the hand, or it can be coming from the outside of the hand, and obviously depending on these things the interpretation is going to change. But what I'm going to do with this video is give you an overview and give you an understanding as to what it means to have two fate lines of any kind of variation. Now, when you have two fate lines, you always need to start thinking about a second job or a second career of some kind. Somebody who's got one fate line and then another one that's kind of just about coming in and then runs parallel for a little bit is very likely to have another job or another career that they're doing simultaneously to something else at that time. When we look at the video, I'm going to give you some really clear examples of this, but that is the first thing to always bear in mind. Think about a second career. One fate line, one job. Two fate lines, two jobs. And then of course the strength of the second fate line will determine how much conviction or how important that second work is. The other thing to think about is how hard somebody's working. When somebody's got two fate lines, they're going to be working very hard. If you're running two jobs or two businesses, or you're employed with one thing but then you're setting up your own company somewhere else, you're going to be working overtime. You're going to be working double. So that's the other thing to think about. And when you see a doubled fate line, it can be a very productive time. It can be a very positive thing to see. But basically you want to be checking to see, is that person all right with it? Are they managing it? Are they coping? And are they utilizing it? So we're going to go to the computer, we're going to have a look at some examples of the double fate line, and I'm going to explore their meanings in different interpretations of them. Let's have a look. Okay, so here we're going to have a look at some examples of the double fate line. And what's really important to know with the double fate line is that if somebody isn't literally working two jobs, it really shows that somebody is working very hard. It's somebody that's putting in two shifts of some kind. And what's really good for them is to be able to put their eggs in one basket, to be able to focus on one thing and unify themselves to work towards one goal. Okay, so this is our first lady's hand here. She has her double fate line and she does have two jobs. The first job she has is working as a mind reader, and she does this working at parties and events, and she interprets people's body languages and facial expression and things to determine their character. And her second job is working as a yoga instructor and teacher. So she's got two different jobs, and sometimes when people have got these two different jobs, it works. However, with her, she was finding it quite difficult and she's finding it quite stressful, and she feels that she's being spread a bit thin, and she would prefer to have one target and one focus. So this is where this lady is at the minute, and from looking at her hand, I would suggest that the yoga teacher role is ultimately going to be the one that takes precedent in her life and where she feels most comfortable. Okay, and this is another double fate line, and it's extremely similar to the last hand. So we've got the one fate line running up the center, and then we've got this other one that's coming in from the outside, the subconscious, the right hand side of the hand. This is a lady here who's recently trained as a complementary healthcare therapist, and we can see that's the outside influence coming in. Now, what the double fate line shows is that she's currently working two different things. She has her day job, but she's just started to do this complementary therapy work, and she's working very hard. She's got the two going at the same time. And it shows that she hasn't quite committed to one or the other yet. Maybe she hasn't quite got the finances to totally give up the day job and work as the complementary therapist. But ultimately, it's the one that is going to bring her the most satisfaction again. Okay, so if we look at this double fate line, it's actually a lot shorter than the last two. So what this shows, if we look at the whole hand, is that somebody hasn't quite got a stronger sense of direction. Their sense of purpose and who they are and what exactly they want to do isn't quite as well defined as the last two hands we've looked at. This lady does have two different jobs. One job she works as a receptionist, and then the second is as a healer. So what we can see is that neither of these jobs quite satisfies. She doesn't really want to commit to either one of them just yet because the fate line is both quite small on both. So what she wants to do is get to know herself a little bit better, really find what she feels comfortable with, and then find this sense of purpose and direction within herself so she knows which one she'd be happy to fully commit to. Okay, and finally I want to look at this lady's hand here. Now we have looked at this in a different video as well relating to timing, but it's also a very good example of the double fate line. So we have one fate line that's coming up the hand from about the age of 35 going through to 60, and then we have the second fate line that starts at about the age of 40 and then goes through to 60 as well. And then there's also the end fate line that runs past the heart line right up towards the middle finger. So this lady from the age of 35, if we're looking at this fate line here, has worked in the tourism industry. She shows people around the city and gives them tourist tours and things like this. However, her outside fate line that comes from the age of 40 shows the work that she loves to do as a fashion designer. And this really is where her heart lies. And what's interesting is that if we look at the quality of the fate lines during this doubling period, it really starts to fade out on the inner fate line, showing that her passion for fashion designing is really starting to take over and becoming much clearer as the main drive and focus for her. If we look at the fate line after this period, it unifies, becomes one, and what this would suggest is that by the time this lady gets to her 60s, she's going to feel very comfortable just doing the one role, just doing one job. She doesn't have the doubling of the fate line anymore. She's put all of her eggs into one basket. She's committed, and I would obviously say that it's going to be the fashion role that's much more of a heavy influence on her hand. So this is very likely what she's going to go into and feel very good doing. Okay everybody, so we've looked at some examples of the double fate line now. Just to recap, what you need to be thinking about is, does the person literally have two jobs? How hard are they currently working? And are they able to commit to unify and to just do the one thing, which might be more satisfying for them? If you have any questions, just let me know. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.